Hi everyone, we're Travel with Johnny and Will, and today is the recap of our day 2 on board Ambassador's cruise ship called Ambition. Today we are docked in Ireland in the small little place called Cove.
Yeah, so this basically is the port that if you wanted to go and visit the city of Cork, you would get off here and you would take a 30-minute train ride to Cork. However, we knew that we weren't going to plan on doing that today. But our day started, we got up quite early and we went to the Buckingham restaurant at 8:15 for our breakfast. Now, we are a fan of going to a sit-down restaurant for breakfast because quite often the buffets can be a bit chaotic. So Ambassador's ships do things quite differently in their main restaurant, in that you are seated at a table and the waiter will bring you your tea, your coffee and your juice. That's all that they bring you, unless you want to order poached eggs. And if you order poached eggs, you do that with the waiter too. But apart from that, everything else is served buffet style.
Yeah.
Now, you might then think, well, then why not just go to the buffet? But for us, even though we're cruising with with our family and things like that, for us, there's still the main advantage of that would be is that your table is kept for you.
Yes. You're still seated at a table like you would regularly be
at a sit-down restaurant. So, we hate sort of going for meals in buffets and then we don't really get to enjoy the meal together because one of us is always up getting something and then the other one's sitting at the table minding the table. So, yeah, this was a nice sort of mixture of the two. And at 8:15, it wasn't overly busy.
No, it did get busier toward the end, but yeah, it was surprising because we were expecting a full, to be handed a menu, but it wasn't bad. It worked. It worked fine.
It works.
So I just had my usual. I think I had some fruit to start and cereal, and then I had a small hot selection. It was just hash browns, one slice of bacon, and beans. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was all really good.
Yeah, I had bircher muesli, and then I had a cook selection with poached eggs, and some toast, and then I literally had a little pastry just to finish off with a cup of tea. But I couldn't fault the food, and it was warm. The food was hot. Plates are nice and warm as well. I really couldn't fault it.
Yeah, no, it was a great breakfast. Yeah.
After that, we decided that we would head outside for a walk around the open decks. Sailing into Cove, we didn't arrive until around 12 noon. So the morning was spent still cruising, which was lovely. The weather was really nice outside, and we just like to get out and enjoy those open spaces.
The weather was really, really good. Yeah.
Mid-morning then, we decided that we would go to the theatre, the Palladium Theatre on board,
Yes.
and we caught the tail end of the talks about the destinations we were going through.
That's right, yes.
And they chatted about Cove and Liverpool and Falmouth. And then the reason why we were going was that we wanted to go to the talk about orcas.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about orcas, it was about, the charity was called Orca.
Yeah.
But it was about all types of whales, dolphins, things like that. Yeah. Not about fish.
Not
about whales
fish.
And dolphins.
Yeah. And it was interesting. They talked about the different kinds of dolphins and whales, and the fact that they talked about their role and what they were doing on board the ship and how Ambassador works closely with this charity. And they were talking about how they educate cruise lines and things like that too, in terms of reducing speed whenever they're cruising, and things like that. I found it quite interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things, there's two things actually I picked up on, was that when the wheel comes to the surface, it's quite tired, and the first thing, it's not thinking about ships that are coming. So most of those ship strikes, that you see, the wheels just, it's just come up, so it's not looking out for ships, and then it gets caught, so it's just an accident. And then the second thing was that in the wild, apparently, the killer whale, which is the one that's in Free Willy, the big black and white orca, has never killed a human in the wild. It's only actually happened in captivity in the likes of SeaWorld and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, although the two things you find interesting involve death. That's a bit strange. Anyway, so after the talk then, we had started to arrive into Cove, and there's the sailing was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
There's little colourful houses and things, and you're sort of really docked in the town itself. It reminded us a lot of some of the little towns and villages that we went to in Norway, because you do dock so close to actually the town. But the sailing was really beautiful, and we then headed back to the restaurant to grab a quick bite to eat before heading off the ship. And we headed back to Buckingham.
We headed back to the main dining room, Buckingham, for lunch. Another reason why we did this is we're travelling with my mum and dad and your mum and aunt, but my mum has celiac disease, which means she can't have wheat in her diet. And basically, if you dine at the main dining room the night before, the night prior, you can select a lunch and a dinner, and they will prepare that. Anything that's on that menu, they will make it in a gluten-free style, especially for the person who requires it. So because we were going to be heading out, we didn't know how long we'd be out, we thought it'd be best just for my mum and her dietary needs just to go there, and she knew she could get something to eat before we headed out.
And again, a slightly different setup for lunchtime in the dining room. The buffet area that they have in there has soups, salads, fruits, and desserts.
Yes.
And then basically your waiter simply takes your main course order and serves you your main course, and obviously drinks and that as well. So again, bit different, but it worked. It worked, and
it works. But to me, it's odd to see people getting up all the time in the main dining room, whereas it should just be more relaxed. I think I would prefer it if it was just all served, but it hasn't actually bothered me that much.
For lunch today, I had a little bit of the pork and baby corn
I had that too.
Salad, and then I basically had a bacon buddy, which came with this beautiful sauce, and it tasted like a mixture of nearly like brown sauce and barbecue sauce mixed.
Like an in-between sauce.
We'll call it in-between sauce. And it also came with some French fries.
I went for the mac and cheese, and it came with French fries. It was really, really nice, really crispy on the top. You know how the crispy bits are always the best bits. So, yeah.
And then dessert, we both had like a little bit of apple and mixed fruit crumble with custard, and it was yummy. It was so nice.
So we had it off the ship around 1:30 in the afternoon. And just as you're getting off, right in front of you, you'll see the train station. And from this train station, you can board trains to Cork.
Yeah, the train takes about 30 minutes, we've seen, but we just sort of thought we'd explore the local town. And actually, Cove itself has a lot of history in connection with the Titanic. As Cove, or as it was called back then, Queenstown, that was the last place Titanic docked to pick up passengers before it started its journey across the Atlantic. And well, if you don't know what happened to Titanic, then I don't know where you've been. But it's not just a famous movie. So basically, there's a Titanic Experience there. I booked it online literally just in the morning as we were coming into port. And there's guided tours every 15 minutes that start throughout the day. Adults are normally are charged about €12.50. We got a slight reduction for senior citizens at $10.50. And then obviously we'll put the other prices on screens and that for kids and that too. It's very clear on the website that it is suitable for people with walking limitations, and so we knew that it was going to be suitable for my mum and aunt who walk with walking aids. And the tour itself, it does say lasts around an hour for your visit there. So again, we knew it was something that was going to be quick and easy, and something that hopefully would be very good.
Yeah, it was very good. At the door there was a lift for wheelchair users and people with like your mum and aunt. And basically, the process of the tour was like you were pretending to be a passenger about to board the Titanic. So obviously, the ticket office
And your ticket itself had a name of a passenger that came from Queenstown, or as it's
like an actual replica of a ticket they would have received that day. And then it went to the ticket office, and then went to how they tendered from this place to where the Titanic was actually docked.
Because actually the museum itself was the original ticket office where people would have met, got their tickets and boarded that day, the tenders.
Yeah, and then it went out to like a little balcony part where we could actually see the old pier. It was still there. It was barely there, but it was still there, and it was odd that it was all in that building that actually existed for the purpose of the ticket, and the whole experience was in there. So it was weird, but it was a nice...
It was quite touching as well, because the guide herself, she shared a lot of stories about the people that boarded from Queenstown or from Cove. So you got really the local connection with it. So obviously we know Titanic was a sad story, but it really did really hit home, because she was talking about actual people that were from that town, that tried to leave to go to America, and sadly, so many of them didn't make it. But it's a really good experience. For the sake of the cost of the ticket, it was well worth the money, I felt.
It definitely was, yeah.
And we all thoroughly enjoyed it, As well, they'll take you through like an exhibition hall, which will give you information about different parts of Titanic. They have a replica cabin, first class and third class, all set up. So it's definitely worth a visit, folks. So please, if you're come to Cove on the cruise, make sure you try and book before you arrive.
Yeah, definitely. We probably got lucky because the ship's quite small and we were able to just get a slot. But yeah, if you're coming on a bigger ship, to guarantee your experience, book it online prior to coming. So after this, because the experience was on the main street, we just took a little further walk down. We had saw a shop. We decided to grab some snacks just for the few days ahead that we had on board. So then we came across an old-fashioned sweet shop, and old-fashioned in the sense that the sweets weren't pre-packaged or anything. They were all sitting up in their individual jars like the olden days. So I got the toffee bonbons, and Johnny, you got the chocolate raisins.
Yeah. What would your chosen sweet be if you were let loose in a candy store? Tell us in the comments below. So on the way back to the ship, there is a couple of other little stores. Your mum went into a jewellery shop, and there's a couple of other little trinket shops and that about as well. There's plenty of cafes and bars and things that overlook the water as well. But we were heading back to the ship, and we got on board and we went to the Pendennis bar that was opened just for
That's right. It was really hot that whole day, so just to get back on board and be cooled down by the air conditioning of the ship. We just wanted a drink to cool us down. I think I drank the first one, and nearly by the time
by the time she had finished,
the waiter had left, I was like, I need another one. So, but luckily the guy had come over right away and it was like, another one. So it was great.
Afterwards then we came back to our cabin to chill for a bit, and we arrived at some lovely chocolates, which were white chocolate, and they were delicious. As if the toffee bonbons and the chocolate raisins weren't enough, we needed more chocolate.
Yeah, it was soft though. It was like sort of fudgy.
It was so creamy too.
It was nice,
really nice. Yeah. So we chilled for a bit. I sat out in the balcony. We had beautiful views, and then we started to get ready for dinner.
So for tonight, we decided as a group to go to our assigned main dining room, which was the Buckingham, and we got seated at the same table as we were going to get seated at every night, which is table number 97, with our waiter, Defari.
Defari has been really nice and super friendly. He's learning all our names, and he's well tuned in terms of your mum and her dietary requirements, which is really good. Yeah. So for appetizers, I had the pork rillet and Will had the vegetable spring roll.
Spring roll, yeah.
We then both had the minestrone soup as our sort of starter.
Yeah.
For me and then,
I had the spaghetti I can't even say this one. Amatriciania. I don't know what it was. But it was basically like a tomato spaghetti with
The
bacon.
word looked yummy on the menu, so you had to
no,
try
it was good. Tomato and bacon. That's what it was. Yeah.
And I had the leg of lamb, that came with little like a little potato like a little potato rosti kind of thing, which was lovely. And then for dessert, I had tiramisu.
I had the crepe Suzette.
And we could not fault a single thing with the food or the service at all. It was
Or the speed of service.
Or the speed of service. No. It was just really nice. But
yeah, it's been really, really good so far. Yeah.
So after dinner, like the busted sofas that we felt after eating all that, we went out onto the open decks to the promenade for a bit of a walk, just to try and walk off some of the calories that we had eaten. It was then actually that we had noticed the pilot boat.
So earlier during dinner, I'd spotted the pilot boat, and so then when we were out in the promenade, we saw it again, and that meant it was getting closer to our ship, and that the pilot who was on board had to get off soon. Mm-hmm. So we stood there, and we stood for about 5 minutes, and it was hovering near, and we were thinking, what's going on? Is he going to get off? And yeah, in about 10 seconds, he was down the ladder, and he literally jumped, and you can see it in the video, and then just grabbed the rail, and yeah, he was safe, but it was impressive.
Mm-hmm. I definitely wouldn't want that job, but
no.
Yeah, someone has to do it.
Yeah.
So at that point then, we decided to make our way to the theatre. One thing we learnt on our first night was that people go to the theatre early to get seats.
Very early.
Very early. The doors open like an hour before the show. So we decided that we would go there, and we went there about 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So 30 minutes before the show starts, which is normally early for us. But we went, and because there's waiter service, we were able to order a drink to where we were sitting and wait for the show. And tonight's show was a play, and it was called Hell Hath No Fury. Again, now we weren't able to record anything, but it was kind of like there was sort of a deep and dark sort of comedy. It was quite funny in places, but it sort of had like dark bits in it about death and things. So it was good. Look, honestly, the actors were 4 actors. There was some issues with sound, which they had to stop the show then, in order to fix the sound issues and then restart. However, we won't tell you much about the story because that'll only spoil it. But it's well worth watching. For the sake of 40 minutes, it was well worth watching, I thought.
Yeah.
And the actors were really good.
It was very, what's the word? Captivating. Sort of kept you on the edge of your seat a wee bit because you didn't know what was going to happen next. But yeah, it was really good. There was a good amount of like emotional and suspense built up. So it was, enjoyable.
So after the theatre then, as we come out of the theatre, we could see there is a door that leads you to the promenade deck, and we could see obviously through the window that the sun was starting to set, and it really looked beautiful. So we thought we would go outside and get some beautiful pictures, and we'll insert them now. So
then we were hoping to go for a wee drink, and we were trying to get a seat in the Clifton Lounge, but unfortunately we couldn't find like enough seating for the 6 of us. So just next door to the Clifton Lounge is an area called Grafton Street where they do like arts and crafts and things. So we all sat down there, and then I just asked the waiter if we could be served there, and she obliged, so it was really good.
Yeah, we had a couple of drinks there before retiring for the night.
Yeah.
We have another port day then the following day, so we knew we weren't going to want to waking up with sore heads. So we just had a couple of drinks before calling it night.
Yeah. So that's our recap of our day 2, where we docked at Cove. If you've liked this video, please give us a thumbs up down below, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do click subscribe.
Yeah, please.
And ring that bell so you don't miss out on our next video, and subscribing is free. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.